I'm so excited you guys are here because I'm opening my doors to my one-on-one coaching program, Find Your Yes, because we all deserve to live a life that feels like a hell yes. Women are leaders, and leadership is found in entrepreneurship, leading teams within a business, volunteer organizations, your community, and at home with your family. Whether you're desiring to make a transformation into leadership or you want to up-level your skills to become a more effective leader, this program is for you. I've been leading at work and at home for over a decade, and this is what I know. It wasn't until I did the inner work that I personally needed to do that my leadership skills really improved. And that's why I created the Find Your Yes program. So you don't have to do the inner work alone. As someone who has been there, I will guide you as we work through your shadows, heal past traumas, overcome self-limiting beliefs, and watch you transform from the inside out. So if you're ready to create a life that feels like a hell yes, head over to www.jessiblois.com/contact to book a call, or head over to my Instagram @JessieBlois and send me a DM. I'm so excited to connect and to find your yes. So this is a fun one for me. I'm here today with Daniel Selarz, who also happens to be my stepbrother, and I'm really happy to have him here because he has grown an amazing law firm, and we get to pick his brain and learn all about his journey. Thanks for being here, Daniel.
Thank you for having me, Jessie, my wonderful stepsister.
Yeah, it's so fun to have you here. I've been telling you need to come on, and we're finally doing it. So let's do it. So tell us just how, what you're doing now, how it began, kind of what your current title is and what you have going on, and then we'll get into more of the details of who you are.
Sure. So, like Jessie said, my name is Daniel Selarz, and I'm an attorney. I have a practice that I actually partnered with my brother, and we specialize in personal injury lawsuits and cases. And in addition to that, my favorite thing that I do is actually teach at the law school I went to, which is Southwestern.
Yeah.
I teach civil pretrial practice, and just I realized teaching is really my passion. Practicing law is fine, it pays the bills, and I like it most of the time, but I would love to teach full time. And besides that, I just live in West LA in the Brentwood area. I've got an amazing dog that we'll talk about later, and that's pretty much who I am.
I love that about you, that your heart is in the teaching, because that's really where we can give back. Maybe Greg your brother, can take over the firm one day and you can teach full time.
That's the plan.
Yeah. So, okay. So you just mentioned that you partnered with your brother, but that's not how it started. You started this on your own, right?
Sort of. I actually started with another business partner, which lasted a little while, but then I ended up going off on my own. So it was on my own for about 9 years. And about, a little less than a year ago, my brother came on board and we started working together.
Okay. So let's kind of go back to the beginning then. Childhood. Run us through who Daniel was as a kid, and then we'll see if we can make connections about how your childhood plays into who you are now.
I would love for you to make those connections for me, because I have no idea. So my childhood, was great. Really, I grew up in the Valley, very good family life, very close with my brother. I was really into playing sports, and I had lots of hobbies and activities, but really it was just a nice kind of your standard childhood, but everything was good, and definitely played a big role in who I am today.
So we did mention that we are step siblings, which means you come from divorced parents, as
Yes.
do I. Daniel's mom and my dad have been married for, feels like a lifetime now. It's been like 26 or together. I don't know. They've been together a really long time. Do you feel like that played in? Did that impact you, or did you kind of just roll with it when your parents split up?
So that played a huge impact on me.
Okay.
But funny enough, I do want to tell a quick story before we get into on this topic. Is I had while I was kind of getting ready for this, interview. I was thinking back, and I had a recollection of the first time you and I ever met.
Am I gonna feel embarrassed?
You might feel no. It's like a funny, but like a little embarrassed. So the first time we ever met, your whole family came over to dinner at our house. For us, we were like freshly divorced. It was like super weird and awkward. Didn't know what to do. And you came right up to me, and the first thing you said was, "You hate me, don't you?"
I did.
That was the first thing you ever said to me, and it was so funny, and I'll never forget that.
Okay, I am half embarrassed and half like, of course I said that because
Yes.
I've always said whatever the hell I'm thinking. And I've always kind of just like put it all out there. I have no memory of that at all. So for all I know, you're lying. um, but yeah, so I was a teenager. I'm the oldest of all of us, which I get reminded of. Um, and then and then Emily, my sister's next, but you and Emily are basically the same age.
Right.
And then Greg and Jeremy. So if I was mid-teens, you were just like embarking on becoming a teenager at that time.
Exactly. I think they split up. We were about, I want to say that 12, 13 kind of range.
Yeah, that's wild. I love that you have the memory because I don't, but I feel like you remember a lot of stuff that I don't.
And it was perfect because it was just who you are and were, and it just came right out in 2 seconds.
Yeah, and that's totally who I am.
Yeah.
But yeah,
And
that
I
was
think my response was, I don't hate you. I might hate your dad. I haven't decided yet, but no, I don't hate you at all.
I don't hate you yet, but let's see how it is getting to know each other. Okay, so yeah, so talk about how the divorce impacted you.
Sure. So, like I said, I was kind of at that, you know, crazy early teenage,
Yeah.
and it kind of came out of nowhere. I take that back. They were actually sleeping in separate rooms for like years. I guess I just didn't put the pieces together.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it really, at first it really hit me hard, but we were actually really lucky because our dad, they had a really amicable divorce. They took care. It was the kids number one for everything. And funny enough, my dad who moved out, he actually moved into the house 3 doors down so that we could still maintain the same relationship. And that, really made things easy.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
That's funny. So how long did they live side by side?
So my dad's still in the same house until my mom moved into your house. So that
Oh,
was, they were
he's
there
still
for
in the same house?
same house. Yeah. So it was probably 5, 10 years they were living near next door to each other.
That's so wild. Okay. So looking back, you think you can see the benefit in it. At the time, do you remember though what it felt like being a teenage boy processing what was happening or how it kind of shifted your then reality?
So, thinking back from today, knowing more things that I know now,
Yeah.
I really just didn't know what was going on. It kind of,
Yeah.
I knew this was like a big deal and everything, but, because he moved so close and we maintained the same relationship, it really, looking back, it didn't cause a big, ripple in our life at all. Um, Interestingly enough, it kind of became more of an effect on our lives when the new step parents came in and the new
Yeah.
families came in. And I'm
Yeah.
sure you can relate to that because that's when things really change,
Yeah.
at least, in our experience.
Yeah. No, I can. I can definitely relate. I personally, in that aspect, got really lucky because, well, no, my mom brought in some people that I did not feel so lucky to have in my life. And luckily they're not there anymore. But when your mom came into my life, I just always felt really cared for. And I have since the moment she entered our life. So I got really, really lucky in that regard. But it's just kind of like the life that is upended and you have this new normal. But I wonder how that impact, if you can also see it positively, makes you a more resilient person as you grow. I also think like you playing sports, right? I've talked about this on other podcasts. Sports teaches you that it's not always going to go your way. And there's a lot of resilience that comes into being an athlete. Do you think any of these things that you learned as a kid impact how you do your life now?
Yeah. So the big thing for me with sports, of course, you learn, all the cliches, the teamwork, the leadership, working together.
Yeah.
But what I really learned in sports that I carried up until this day was how to get yelled at and brush it off, or how to deal with someone who's a total prick on the other side, or a coach or something. And you know what? You just don't let it get to you. And of course, it does at first. I had one coach I'll never forget. Uh, Given this was my fault, I showed up at a practice with like a collared shirt on because I forgot my jersey. And I was only like 12 years old, and he went off on me. Like, just, profanity, everything. And at the time, it really shook me. but I really learned, how to deal with that because basically, I'm an attorney. All we do is get yelled at by people, whether it's your clients, whether it's the other attorney, whether it's an insurance adjuster. We're just getting, people are going after us all the time. So the big thing is just learning to brush that off. So that was a big thing that I picked up from sports.
That's interesting. Yeah, I think there's a lot of value in sports, especially for Adam. Adam, I think everyone knows, but Adam's my son, and he just joined a new team and he's kind of figuring out his way, and he doesn't feel like the most successful one on the team. And there's a lot of self-doubt. And I'm just walking him through it because I'm like, this is life. You're not always going to be the most successful, and life's going to get hard, and you can't cave in. You have to find the confidence or the strength within yourself to keep going when life is hard. And if I can teach you that as an 11-year-old, I really hope it makes you a more successful adult. Like my thought process is always like, how do I set them up for success in adulthood so they're not adults trying to figure this all out, right?
Yeah, and absolutely. It is a big thing that if you don't learn it early on, you learn it later.
Right.
And not everyone learns things, at the same point. There's lots of things I didn't pick up till my 30s. And I wish I learned it, earlier in life. And the other thing I would say, for Adam, just everyone, you want to tough it out, you want to learn all those things. But the biggest thing for me is you want to enjoy what you're doing. So even though it might be difficult and if you're not the best, you might not be loving it, but you still have to find that enjoyment in it. And so, you're happy getting up every day. You're happy going to practice and playing the games, and just taking the best of it as much as you can.
Yeah, I think, and then being able to still have joy when you're working hard at whatever it is. They don't need to be mutually exclusive, right?
Yeah,
Joy
absolutely.
doesn't mean easy. A really fun little side note about Adam. Uncle Daniel and Adam were together not that long ago, and Adam, like, he's at the age now where he's asking you so many questions about what you do, and I've never seen him more interested in somebody's career. And he said to me the other day, he goes, Mom, did you know that Uncle Daniel's rich because of everything you tell me not to do? And I said, what are you talking about? He goes, you tell me to stop arguing, but arguing is how Uncle Daniel got rich.
That's too funny. But what did I explain to him, if you remember when he said that? I don't even know if you were in the conversation.
I don't think I was.
I told Adam, and this is a very important, thing that I learned later in life. This is an example of I wish I learned it younger. It's not about arguing ever. It's always about, explaining something or trying to find a point of agreement and then just tacking on, maybe a little differences. And he kind of understood that. I really explained to him. I said, no, you need to explain to the other person.
Yeah. Well, I think he's really trying hard to do that this summer because he really wants a cell phone. And it's a constant conversation. And there's a lot of, he wrote a paper for school. It was like, I can't think of it right now, but like those papers you write that are kind of an argument and you're trying to present one point, and it was all about cell phones. Like he's really working hard on it. But yeah, he's really into what you do. Yeah,
Uncle Daniel.
I don't think I'll do well if he spends too much time with Uncle Daniel, unless you're gonna do the phone.
We'll see, but I'll work with him. We'll see how to explain.
That's what's gonna happen. Is Uncle Daniel's gonna come in and be like, "It's okay, buddy, I got you."
I'm gonna represent him and get his cell phone.
There you go. Okay, so you're an athlete. You're going through. Why did you decide to be a lawyer? I mean, let's be honest. Like, you and Greg are both lawyers, and Greg's not here right now, guys, because he just had a baby.
He did.
He's learning the new daddy stuff right now. But why law?
So funny enough, I can even answer for him. It was we fell into it. There was no, that wasn't our life goal. The reality is our parents didn't necessarily have careers that we could follow their paths. And especially my dad was in the retail business, which completely, fell out of play. Yeah. So it was really the easiest thing. We had an option. It was either graduate college, get a job, or continue school. And for me, getting a job was not an option yet. So, I looked into law school. That seemed to make sense. And so I kind of just took it day by day.
What's your undergrad in?
The degree was business economics, which was, basically choose the most generic one that you can still do whatever you want with it.
I feel like you've always been really good, though, at making choices like that. Like, go generic.
Exactly.
Yeah, you do. You really have that kind of bird's eye view when you're making decisions of how to make strategic decisions that pan out well for you.
Yeah, I think, a lot of people are so specific with their goals and what they want to do. And, if they find out that doesn't work for them, and it's kind of scary. But if you leave your options open, if one thing doesn't work, whatever, you just move to the next thing. And that's kind of just how I fell into this.
Okay, but that's a skill, Daniel, and that's not a skill that I have, right? Like as a very highly anxious person at times, I want to control my environment. So I try to pinpoint this is my path, this is what I'm going to do. You're able to be open and kind of just trust the process and pivot when necessary.
Yeah.
Do you think is that just who you are? Or is that something you've witnessed other people do differently and you've decided consciously to be like that? Or
No, I think that's kind of just who I am. Um,
you're very chill.
I kind of am. I hate to admit it. And that's another skill I learned later in life. I wasn't, like this or as mellow, or easygoing, in my 20s when I was a new lawyer in law school, I was much more intense. I was combative, I was getting into it with, other people. But then I realized that just doesn't, accomplish anything. So I figured just, kind of ease off, take it day by day and, go with the flow of things.
Do you feel like things started working out for you better when you did that?
100%. And whether it worked, things might have been better, worse, whatever, but I became happy. I didn't have, anything, what do they call it? A chip on my shoulder. I wasn't just like frustrated or unhappy, like, trying to get revenge on people or like, building that or bearing that inside. I kind of just realized who cares? It's not worth it.
And you really do. I mean, obviously, I know you personally and I know you well. Like, you really do exude that. You really, I feel that when I'm with you, that you're just like, all right, like, I don't
I
like, just go with
appreciate
it.
that. Yeah.
Yeah. Was it hard at first, or did you just, I mean, asking for a friend, did you just decide one day I'm going to let it be easy? Or was it like a conscious decision? Like you would get caught in old habits and behaviors, and you're like, this is not how I want to feel. I'm going to choose to go this way instead.
It was definitely a little bit of both. Um, a lot of it came from, in my business, we have clients that, for lack of better term, are overly aggressive. And again, like I said, opposing attorneys. And, they would call me at midnight on a Thursday and leave a nasty message. And I would listen to it and it would keep me up all night.
Yeah.
And then I realized, why even listen to that message at
Yeah.
midnight the day before? So I started kind of implementing that. Obviously, I still kind of would to make sure it's not an emergency, but at the end of the day, you just let it go. And the other thing that kind of triggered it for me, like I said, I wasn't always, like this, but there was a point where I was like realizing I was getting into whether it was arguments or like disagreements or just having issues with a lot of different people on a lot of different things, whether it was construction on my place or something through work or a personal friend. And I realized that just, that would get to me more than it affected, was productive on anything. So, for my own benefit, I realized just let things go and it kind of works out.
Yeah. I mean, that isn't that true though, that especially when you're running your own business and you have multiple things going on, there's always something
There, like,
that you
there's
can
there's fires all the time.
all the
You
time. And
can
if
never
you're
be
a
in the clear.
business owner, like I'm a professional fire pitter outer,
Yeah,
right?
that's all you are. That's all your job is.
I mean, really, like people when they ask me lately, what do you do? I don't really say speech pathology anymore. I run a business, and that is not related.
It's not
I,
related.
it's a very different course. And you go to school for law, and I go to school for one thing, and then we go into business ownership, and it's like no one gave us school for that.
No.
And
Well,
by
I hear there's
me,
something called business school, but neither of
yeah,
us
well,
chose to
I
go that.
forgot to go.
I do too.
So it's a crash course, and even last night something came up in our business and it pulled us away from we were watching movies with our kids. It pulled us away. We ended up on a 45-minute phone call at 8:30 at night because there's a fire. And then I came to check on the kids and my daughter said, Mommy, I was just all alone and you left. And I just thought, what the hell am I doing? Like that fire's gonna come and that fire's gonna go, but I can't do this, right?
No,
Like there has to be more important things
and there are.
than yeah, and there are. And it's that conscious decision about where to put your energy and learning. For me, it has to be very intentional. it's become easier in certain aspects of my life, but then there's other aspects where it's still very intentional about what's going to get my attention at this moment. But I think honing in that inner peace then allows you to do everything better, right? So did you find that when you were more at peace and you were happier, everything around you felt easier? I feel like when I'm in overwhelm, I can't have clear thoughts. And when I calm my nervous system, I'm able to figure out a good next step.
100%. It also just gives you more time because it lets you decide what are really the important or urgent things to do or work on. And if it's not, you do the things that matter, more, that are more important. And you get to the other things when you get to them.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's trusting that you know what the more important thing is. Even if this thing feels loud, if you really can take a breath and listen to yourself, you know what's the most important thing. Yeah. Okay. So you decide to go to law school. You acted like, I don't want to go to work, so I'm going to go to law school. I mean, a lot of people don't want to go to work and they don't choose law school, but you did. And then Greg did. It's worked out really well for me because you had to help me out several times. So
that's true.
I'm
We're
really
like in-house lawyers for the Selarz Fox family.
Yeah, I mean, I love having lawyers in the family. I'm not complaining at all. Thanks for taking that on. How did you decide after law school to not go work in someone else's firm? Why did you decide? I mean, this is a big one, right? Like, you definitely took a harder path right away.
Yes. And that does kind of go back to like what we learned in childhood and everything. And part of it was, I had a very fortunate childhood. I never, was pressured to do things I didn't want to do other than, study and do decently in school, which I still didn't do. But, it was basically, I could get away with, failing certain things or not doing, amazingly. But I was a little spoiled. If I didn't want to do something, I didn't really get forced to do it. So what happened was right out of law school, I actually did work for a bigger firm. Started with, basically a regular firm, and it was suit and tie every day in an office. And I was miserable. I regretted going to law school. I regretted being a lawyer. Just every day I'd come home, I'd call my mom on the way home, sitting in traffic, and be like, I don't know what to do with my life. Like, this is miserable.
How old were you?
So this was graduating law school. I want to say like 25-ish.
Yeah, I was gonna say you like at this point you must have been really young.
Yeah. And then, I learned of these young lawyers having success opening up their own firm. I never realized it was an option. And I basically said, I can't live this life, what I'm doing. I have no choice. I've got to give this a try. So I really, after about 6 months, I opened my own practice and then kind of took off from there.
Okay, but how did you get started? Like, how did you even know what to do first?
Good question. And that goes back to kind of taking things day by day. A lot of, you look at the whole thing of opening a business. How do I get clients? How do I set up a website? And it's so overwhelming.
Yeah.
As you know, but at the end of the day, today, I can't do all of that. I can only do the step one.
Yeah.
So you basically map out. And so day one, was literally find an office, right? Day two was get a phone number. So I took it step by step. And then as far as, kind of, getting things moving and everything, we kind of just put ourselves out there. And, the way our business runs is we get all of our work, all of our cases from other attorneys who refer it to us, other than the Fox family who, just comes in weekly. But
we do. I mean, we just want to support you.
I know. Yes, you guys do. You guys keep me in business. I like
it.
Also,
we're just here to support you.
I should have also been an in-house family law lawyer for my family, and would have done really well.
You'd be fine. Yeah.
Yes. But as far as going, I say we because I had a business partner, starting off. We didn't know what we were doing, is the truth. We had no idea. So it was basically, and this is another kind of philosophy I live by, is just make every mistake. Mistakes that you can fix, make every single one. Instead of sitting back, just, oh my God, what do I do? I'm not going to do it. Make every mistake. And so what I did on the first day, we got our first case, no idea what to do. And I immediately was like, all right, I'm just going to try to settle this. Let's see if I can make some money on my first day. So I call the insurance company or the other attorney, whoever it was. And I tell them, hey, let's talk about this case. And they go, we don't know who you are. You haven't sent us a letter. You haven't like, told us you represent this client. And so that was my first thing of that's what I have to do step one. And I totally didn't know that until I messed up and fixed that. So it's really just trial and error. And
Yeah.
that's how I've gotten through everything.
Yeah. I mean, what a mistake to me is only a mistake if you don't learn from it. Otherwise, it's just a learning opportunity, right? And we all have to learn. I also think you can white knuckle it, or you can look out to people that know how to do it better or have already done it. And you can try to learn from them. You can bring them on to coach you, or you can just watch what they're doing. Or if they're on social media, you can kind of get in there and see what they're doing. And then there's other parts of your business that you don't know how to do or you're not interested in doing. Pay someone else because your time is valuable. So I've become a big believer in you have to spend money to make money, first of all, guys. Like it sucks, but you do. And if you're going to spend X amount of hours doing something that is really just doesn't come naturally to you, but you could pay someone else to do it, do that and spend your time on what you're good at.
Exactly. I mean, I'm going to repeat literally what you said. So this might be, redundant, but I couldn't agree more with both those things you said. As far as how did I get by at the beginning, I had the best mentors ever. And I was so lucky and I trusted them where I could call them 5 times a day.
Yeah.
Hey, what do I do next? What do I do next? And they would help. And because of that, I really sincerely try to pass that down. A lot of my former students, that have either worked for me or been in my class, they call me all the time. And I'm not just happy, I love helping them because I got that kind of help to begin with. And the other thing, like you said, outsource stuff, especially these days where you can basically, everything's virtual. You can, just hire these startup companies. Don't waste your time. It's not wasting time, but, we're a law firm. I don't need to do my own accounting. I don't need to spend, all that time doing that. So outsource that. I really couldn't agree more with that.
Yeah. How did you find your mentors?
Oh, so our industry is very big. I specialize in personal injury, very big on networking. I use the networking phrase because it's professional, but at the end of the day, it's just they host these events and parties and galas and casino night, charity events. It's so much fun. And you go and it's just very social. So I met basically all my mentors that way, other than a few are actually friends of my parents or maybe my friends' parents. But the big ones I met through the networking that I just got really lucky.
Did you say, like, can I call you with questions, or did you just build a relationship that naturally you felt comfortable calling?
100% just built the relationship. But I was lucky that I already, even day one, I've had people who've known me since birth in the industry that I already felt comfortable calling them with questions.
When you say in the industry, do you mean a different lawyer or do you mean a lawyer in personal injury?
Both. Some of these mentors of mine that have been basically like, business people who opened their own firm in another area of law. So anytime I had business questions, I went right to them. They were very helpful. Other ones were in personal injury, which I would go to, for them for specific questions.
Is there competition between personal injury lawyers, or there's just enough going around that everyone's about helping each other and not worrying about competing?
So it's really everything you just said. It is extremely competitive. At the end of the day, the way we work is we charge a contingency on what the case result is. And, it's kind of hard to say, but, the worse injuries you're dealing with, the more significant the case is worth. So anytime there's a major, case like that, the attorney, it's all competitive to get the case. But at the same time, it's very collaborative because what will happen is, one attorney will have a case and bring in another attorney, to kind of double up the power on it, or they'll refer it out because, they only handle the first stage and, we'll handle the second stage. So it's also collaborative, very competitive. And I forgot the third thing you said, but that was also very good too.
I forgot too, so don't worry about it. It's gone. What have been, so Greg's with you now, but all that time when you were on your own, did it feel harder? Were you focused on cases? Were you focused on growing the firm? What's been did you have a focus or did you just allow?
No, it's actually, this is one thing I had to focus on. Not one thing, I had focus on more than one thing, but like you said, getting the cases. That is the name, other than, set yourself up, be able to operate, but that was it. I went out there and got lunch, got coffee, whatever it was, with every single attorney I knew and met that was willing to do that. And one out of every 30 or 40 of them would send me cases. And at the beginning, we were so hungry that
Yeah.
we would take almost anything that was legit.
Yeah.
And then that kind of grew from there. But that's really how we got going. It was just meeting individually with every attorney we could and asking them to send us business and focusing on that.
So when they don't send you business, Daniel, does that feel like rejection?
No, not at all.
Okay.
It's actually more insulting when they send us cases that are really terrible cases.
Okay.
That's actually more insulting, funny enough. But no, it's not
Because you
rejection.
don't feel like they respect you enough to send you like a more decent case.
Yeah, and also it's just, sometimes they don't tell you there's certain issues with it. So, you kind of get not in trouble, but you're trapped in this, you're stuck in it. But no, it was all about building, getting the cases, building the business, and kind of going from there. That was the focus.
A lot of networking and a lot of lunches and a lot of coffee.
Big time. Yes. It was like, that was my job. For the first year of building a business, it was just like, it's all, you can't do anything if you don't have the clients.
Yeah. Yeah. And then you have to say yes to pretty much anything. And
You
then
have to say yes.
you're settled when you're just like, no, thank you. You're not the right fit.
Yeah. Then it's really bad.
Yeah. Um, so
Oh,
I
and
mean,
sorry, I totally
yeah,
right. There's a
no,
second good part of your question, which was like, was it
you
tough being
remember.
on my own and dealing with that? It was very tough. When I had the partner, it was amazing. When he split off and I was on my own for a little while, very tough. If you're dealing with an opposing counsel who's so aggressive and just writing you nasty letters, threatening you, it's like it's not fun if you don't have anyone in your corner.
Yeah.
It feels like it's all on you. But what
Yeah.
was nice was um, very early on, I got into the rotation of having law students work with me. So that was really helpful.
I mean, you've continued to do that.
Absolutely. That's a big part of our practice. We've always
How
got, a couple law students with us.
how did you know you wanted to do that?
So to start with, it was because they were free. They get school credit. And
Yeah.
nowadays they actually changed that rule where they do get paid in addition to school credit, which I think is
Okay.
much more reasonable. But early on, it was I couldn't afford to hire someone. So that
Okay.
was the only way to get help, to build everything.
Um, sometimes when something gets so like a person can take so much of something, right? And then they only reach their breaking point when it's just too much. It's just this, like if something bad keeps happening over and over and over, at some point you just laugh because you're like, this is fucking ridiculous. I can't just when people are yelling at you and aggressive towards you and have all of this extra aggressive energy, did you just get to the point where it's so just commonplace and you see it in your profession that it just stopped impacting you?
Just
And
stop.
you,
So yes.
yeah,
What's funny is the way I used to handle it, I would never, even earlier on, never reciprocate, any anger. I would never like yell at anyone. That it wasn't part of my personality. What I would do is I would, what's the right phrase? I would press their buttons. I would get under their skin by, being sarcastic or making jokes. And that was just as bad because it would set them off even more.
yeah,
Now what I do is I just ignore it. And that's really how
yeah,
you have to handle it. I get about one letter every 6 months from an attorney threatening, your case is such, fraud that we're going to report you, all this nonsense. And it
uh-huh,
used to scare me. And then you see it so often and it's all nonsense. You just have to ignore things like that. I
yeah,
used to respond in writing and say, here's why it's not, blah, blah, blah. And you realize that's the stuff where you're wasting your time when you should be spending that with your family or doing
yeah,
things you want to do
yeah,
instead of responding in that way.
yeah. No, I hear you. And I think that comes with life experience, knowing what gets your time energy or your emotional energy and knowing when to just shut it off and say, I have a boundary and this is it. And we're not going to cross this boundary. And I
Yeah.
think, at least for me, it took life experience to realize where those boundaries were needed and what I was willing to compromise and move on, and what's just, I'm not going to make the same mistake too many times.
Yeah. And that's a big thing is when to know when to move on.
Yeah.
There's it's just not worth fighting every battle. And most battles are not worth fighting. And funny enough, a good example that I learned from in a, reverse way, my grandma, who I'm so close with and, is
Yeah.
amazing and is the toughest woman I've ever met in my life. where, it was always justified, but she needed to fight things. If she was thought someone was in the wrong, she had to go after them. And there was an example, she got a parking ticket one time and she was certain that she was not parked there, that they just wrote her a ticket, it was invalid, whatever. She must have spent 3 months of her life trying to fight this ticket and get it reversed, and even brought me in to do like legal stuff. And I looked at it and I said, it's a $50 ticket. And we just spent, 20, 30 hours on this. Yeah. So it's really, why fight that battle? Spend that time doing something you like to do.
Yeah. I think that takes a lot of personal work to get to the place where you can step back and say, I'm comfortable letting this go, because it's not about having to prove that I'm right. It's about me knowing I'm okay.
Exactly. You don't have to prove you're right. Who cares? You're not proving it to anyone that means anything.
Exactly. But it takes, some people never learn.
They never learn that. It's a hard thing to learn.
It's a hard thing to learn, and it takes self-reflection, and sometimes self-reflection sucks. But it's just a part of it. It's a part of growing in a more peaceful way.
Yeah.
Talk to me about teaching.
So teaching, I got so lucky. Basically, like I said, I started off with the business, bringing in law students, and I loved working with them. They were so excited to learn, and they, kind of things that I knew they didn't know. So it was kind of fun to teach them and show them how to do stuff, and, how the business runs and everything. And so basically about 2 or 3 years out of law school, I reached out to the dean, who I happened to be close with, dean at Southwestern Law School. I went to school, who I was very close with while I was in school, and just said, I love this teaching thing. If you have a class open, here's what I'm capable or qualified to teach. And the response was, give me a break. You just graduated like 2 years ago. There's no way we're letting you teach. And I got so lucky because basically one of the professors quit like last minute, and they needed somebody desperately to teach the one class that I was actually qualified to teach, which was basically civil litigation. So I stepped in, and just for the same reason I love having the students work with me, just love the energy of being, on campus and with all these students who are excited to learn, and it's just always fun for me.
But just like owning a business, you didn't go to school to learn how to teach.
That's right. Although that came more naturally to me, just because you kind of just, for lack of a better word, I'm like right amount, but my like intelligence level is just the right amount where like I can explain things clearly to people, clearly. And so I found teaching just like that's all it is. It's not about explain things at the top level or explain things, at a it's all about just simplifying things. And that's, why I think I was able to really pick up teaching so well, because I could relate to the students and really, explain things to them.
I mean, how long have you been teaching now for?
So it's been like 7 years now.
Yeah, gosh. Yeah. I know, it's been a while. So you basically, to get that job, you had to shoot your shot, and you did. Is that kind of how you go through life? I mean, I always say, if you don't ask, the answer is already no.
Mm-hmm.
You got to just try. And then, I mean, it was clearly meant to be because it aligned that you got the position.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But no, I couldn't, believe in that philosophy more. It's, if you're asking for something reasonable, even if the other person says no, if they say no in a nice way, then who cares? You're in the same spot. If they like take it offensively and like they backlash at you, then screw them, right? Like they're the ones being unreasonable. So like I said, and this is a big part of what I teach in my class, aside from the actual, academic stuff, is to get a job, you need to ask for the job. Even if you're working somewhere part-time, I was working at this firm, and I graduated, I passed the bar. So I was a licensed attorney. They weren't going to hire me as an attorney and pay me a full salary. Why would they? I was already, doing the same work, and they were paying me hourly, whatever the low hourly was. Yeah. I had to go and ask for that job, even though it was so obvious that I was going to get it, fingers crossed. You have to ask for it. If you want a raise, it's a very rare boss that's just going to voluntarily give you a raise. It doesn't mean they're a bad person or a bad boss. It's just not part of a lot of business, models. You have to ask for that. You have to ask for really anything you want in life. And that's, if they respond the wrong way, that's on them.
How do you handle rejection? Do you take it personally? Does it hurt and then you move on? Or do you just roll with it and think that it wasn't for me? Or have you Have you been rejected, Daniel?
I mean, well, we can talk about like in our social lives, we can talk about that
No,
later. But
yeah, we'll keep
um,
it in the professional life for now.
yes, so of course, yeah, I I interviewed. So the one job I interviewed for that I didn't get in my life was at CPK when I was 18 years old, and I'll never forget it. I was so like, why? It was so frustrating. But that was, yeah, that was like my biggest professional rejection. But
Okay,
no,
okay, I think you're doing okay.
no, I'm also kidding because no, I get rejected all the time. Like I said, I ask for a case, they say no. I ask, you know, the other side would pay this much money, they say no. It just you just
Yeah.
roll off everything. Unless it's a big thing that you have to respond to, roll off, move to the next one. You'll win the next one.
How do
And
you
that's
do
kind of
it?
how I do it. If you get rejected enough times, like I have, it really you just can't
You
let
have
it
to.
bother you. You have no choice.
Yeah. How do you take care of your mental health then? Like, what do you do for you? Because you're in such an industry where rejection is common, aggression is common, high energy is common. So, what do you do besides just letting it, roll off, which is a great skill? But how do you bring yourself back to like that calm, centered nervous system?
So, my big thing is the work-life balance.
Okay, well, hold on. I want to challenge that because I don't think there is work life balance. I think that we juggle
you
work
do
and life.
24/7 on both is basically what you do.
No, I don't think we do 27. No, I think something can only get our attention at one time. So at one point, there's like a ball in the air getting our attention. But if that's getting our attention, everything else isn't. So it's just about juggling and which ball are you going to be focusing on now, but they're not getting equal attention. Like last night, my business got my attention and my children didn't. And I can't say to them, but you got me on Saturday, right? Like something is not getting a piece of you if something else is. So I say it's a juggle, but that's, my philosophy.
Well, here's why you are the expert compared to me on this is I'm single. I don't have
Yeah.
kids. I have less balls to juggle.
Yeah.
It is a juggling act, but for me, I'm able to take time to myself probably more easily, of course, than someone with a family and married with kids,
Yeah.
because I focus on the business and then I take myself time. So I'm
Yeah.
able to get that balance a little bit more. But for me, like you said, we're working all the time. There's no full work life balance, but you just have to enjoy your day to day. That's the big thing for me. You're not going to love every day. Some days suck, but
Mhm.
on the average, you can't wake up every day and be like, I can't believe I have to do this or go to this job or something.
Mhm.
So, that's the balance I look for. It's not always I'm working versus not working. It's just the balance of enjoying the average day that I go through.
So do you feel like you chose the right career path then? Like you actually
100%.
100% because why?
So for me, there's the formal, professional reported answer, which is, we really help people. We do. Personal injury attorneys get a bad reputation for good reason. However, at the end of the day, we are helping people. It's someone who, was injured, was hurt, basically, and we need to help them get not just medical treatment, but they can't have millions or hundreds or thousands of bills outstanding. We help them with that. We help them, basically just go through the legal process. So I think we do help people a lot. But the reason why this area really works for me is you have that social element like we talked about, but you can have that balance where you can put things aside
Mm.
and enjoy life. And there's a big enjoyment element to the industry, which I like. The social element, we do. I think, we basically every other month we're going to a convention, which is either in Cabo or Hawaii or
Yeah.
Vegas or Miami. I mean,
Yeah.
it's just the industry is ridiculous that there's such a big
When you
high
say
level of
industry,
enjoyment.
do you mean personal injury?
Specifically personal
Okay.
injury. Law, every part of law is totally different. If you go
Okay.
to a big law lawyer, who's working, 100 hours a week and, making big money and everything, they're not going to these conventions all over the place, but it's a different, work path that they chose.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I'm glad you like it. Do you
Yeah,
think you want to stay doing this, or do you think you want to transition into full-time teaching down the line, or are you just kind of open for whatever comes your way?
good question. No, this is also something where I do have a more specific path.
Okay.
Admittedly, like I said, I enjoy what I do. I look forward to getting, up and doing this every day, but it's still a job, it's still work to me, where if I won the lottery tomorrow, I wouldn't be working the same way that I am now. It's not
Sure.
like I'm just doing it because I love every element of it. So, the end goal, or, the 5, 10 year, 20 year, whatever it is to much more, not fully ever give up a practice, but to ease up on it, where I'm just kind of overseeing things generally, not dealing with those stresses, and
Mm,
teaching, whether it's full time, but focusing on that because I do really enjoy that much more.
yeah. So then if you would love to like oversee more, is your vision to bring someone in? I mean, I don't know if it's Greg or if you guys have a vision for somebody else and to teach them kind of how to run it so you can more oversee.
So here's the real vision. This is very industry specific. So
Okay.
please ask me if I'm not explaining anything well.
Okay.
So there's kind of two business models you can have in our industry. And it just depends on what kind of firm you are. To make money, you either have a lot of cases, or those if those are smaller cases, you have to have a lot of them, right? Because you're working on
Right.
that contingency, or you have a few very large cases. And of course, like we talked about, those are very difficult to get. It's very competitive. But the end goal is, instead of running a practice with, right now we've got about 150 cases, which is kind of the sweet spot for us. I,
Wow.
it's a lot,
How
which
do
is
you
great.
keep that all straight?
Excel,
Okay.
Microsoft Excel.
Okay.
And so that's it. Just everything's through there. But so the end goal would be to transition into one of those firms, and it's not easy to get there, where we have 50 cases at the most, ideally even 25 cases that are
Mm-hmm.
really good cases that we can really focus on and work hard on. That's the end goal, to limit that so I don't spend quite as much time, and then do the teaching also.
Mm-hmm.
Ideally, aside from that, enjoy my life and, get married, have kids, and, have
Yeah.
a nice puppy like Otis.
So Otis is sleeping, but Otis was my dog. And I think it's the nicest present I've ever given
It
Daniel.
is the
And
nicest
Daniel,
present anyone's ever given me.
Daniel taking Otis was the nicest present he ever gave to me because we very quickly decided Otis was not a good fit for our family.
Oh,
And God, how long have you had Otis now for?
like 5.5 years already.
Oh, I feel like it's longer than that.
Uh,
Gosh, I mean, I'm so happy you took him and we still know what's going on with him, but I am so happy he is yours and not mine.
and I was very lucky to get him. But let me tell you, he's an English bulldog,
Yeah.
and I know it's part of the breed. He's the most stubborn little, what, I've ever seen in my life. It's
And
unbelievable.
does he still have that insane energy? I remember, Daniel, you came over for dinner or whatever, and you brought Otis, and the screen door was shut, and he plowed through that screen door,
Didn't even
completely
pause.
broke it. He didn't even look, he didn't
Yep.
even feel it. And I thought, oh, yeah, we made the right choice.
Yep. And
Yeah.
I was I was okay with that too, because it was your house and I didn't feel bad because he was your dog. So if there's one place to do that, it was at your house.
Yeah, I don't think you like flinched either.
Oh, I
You're
didn't
like,
offer to fix it. I said, I took your dog. I took this hassle off your hands. You deal with that.
oh my gosh, yeah. Well, we have our own two crazy ones, but no dogs as crazy as Otis.
No, he's the
Um,
crazy.
so do you have time for a social life and
I do.
dating and everything? You feel like you can
Yeah.
do it all?
So, as you know, the interesting thing when you have a business, it's like there's some periods where you're working all day, all the time,
Yeah,
and you don't. And then there's periods where it mellows out and you do.
yeah.
So, it really fluctuates. There's times where I've got plenty of time for that. I'm big on, you know, I prioritize, maybe I shouldn't, but, my friend circle, even beyond dating, or that portion of my life, because I've had just the most amazing friends, and family. I spend so much time with my family, and I've
You
got
do.
friends from back when we were 5 years old,
You do, yeah.
that, I really focus on that, and, the dating life, when I do have time for that, that's great. But definitely, yeah, that side of things I really focus on.
We'll in the show notes, Daniel, we can put your phone number and you can just
Oh, it's perfect. That's why I'm doing this.
yeah. It's your own dating podcast.
I thought this
Okay.
was like a dating interview. This isn't a dating show
I mean,
to
it can
interview
be. We'll
me.
turn it into that. We'll just add it into the
Perfect.
show notes and then people can contact you and they can shoot their shot.
Oh,
Um,
perfect. Is that going
okay.
to be the name of the show? Shoot your shot.
I think that is going to be the name of this episode, actually. Shoot your shot. It's perfect.
Yeah.
Okay, you have such a good outlook. I can really attest to being around you. It's not bullshit. It's true. It's authentically who you are and the energy that you bring in. You can't spend time with you and not enjoy yourself. I really do mean that. And what do you say to people getting started? Whether it's in law or it's in a different profession, what's your advice to people that want, some sort of independent business ownership path, whether it be business related or personal related? What would you advise?
Well, I think you know what I'm going to say. What's the first thing I'm going to say?
Shoot your shot.
Shoot your shot. You have to go for it. And the biggest thing, and this is one of the decisions I made that I'm so happy I did, you got to do it early.
Okay.
It's scary. It's always scary, but the earlier you do it and the less responsibilities you have outside of that, it
Yeah.
really allows you to focus more on building whatever you want to build. So, we started when I was 27 or 25, but however old I was. And the mentality I had was, if this fails, it's not like I was giving up this like crazy good salary as a first year attorney somewhere.
Yeah.
But if you wait and you kind of, are scared of it, and then, 10 years in, you realize I have to go out on my own or just build a business, you're giving up a lot and you've got a lot of responsibilities. So you've just, if you want to do it, you just have to give it a try. You have to go for it.
I think that's really good advice because I didn't decide to do it until I had a 1 year old and a 3 year old. And there's a lot of sacrifice made when you're pouring your heart into building something, because if you're doing that, you're not with your
No,
babies.
that's like your own, I don't want to compare it to a kid, but you are growing that and it is your
No, it's a
child
kid.
also.
I don't have more than two because I have this business. It is for sure my third child.
Yeah.
1,000%, it's like having a child. It
Mhm.
needs a lot of you. Well, okay, wait. Do you have any other words of advice or are you good?
Let's see, words of advice. That was a big one. Shot, go for it. Another big one that we talked about was the mentorship. It's
Yeah.
very cliche, cheesy, but that's
No,
how
it's really true.
it's true. You need to find people you trust that are happy to help you. And one suggestion I always make, and this is what has worked for me, you need two categories of mentors. You need ones that are, more experienced without, using the word older and, but basically someone who's been through everything to help you.
Yeah.
But you also need someone who's just a little bit ahead of you, because those experienced older ones, they're not going to remember what it was like to start your business. Or, in our practice, we litigate a case that's worth $5,000. If I ask one of my mentors, how do I do this on a $5,000 case? He's literally going to have no idea because he hasn't done that in 50 years. But
Yeah.
I've got other mentors that are 2, 3 years older and they can help me with all of that stuff. So it's important to find both categories.
Everything you're saying makes so much sense. And I'm not a lawyer, but I think I can relate and I can understand it. And I think people can take this across any career path they're on. I think it's all really good advice. And thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you for having me. Let's do this again.
I know, I know. I love you. I appreciate you. You really are an amazing human, and I'm so proud of you. And this was great, and this was fun, and we'll talk really soon.
I love you too. Thank you so much.
Mwah.
Bye.
Bye.